Hello, dearest friends. It is time once more for a story. A story from Reddit user Scawny Maiden. I like your name, and I'm probably saying it wrong, but you know. This is Let's Not Chat, Kipp. I don't know who Kipp is, but I guess we're about to find out. Here we go. Hello, Moonhorse. Hello, Sango, Celestial Herd, and other weary travelers. I didn't think I would ever have something even close to the typical subject matter that Moonhorse, Red X, and others tend to indulge in. I love listening to neckbeard/nice guy stories and cringe posts, but I thought I was one of the few who had never been inconvenienced or accosted by individuals of that caliber. And then I remembered this one dude. And now I don't think I'm an exception anymore. Now, before we start this truncated and half-forgotten narrative, because these events happened almost 10 plus years ago, and I'm an old 30-something. Don't call me out like that, dude. I want to mention this man that I'm about to speak of is not a neckbeard, nor is he really a nice guy. At best, he was a nuisance. At worst, he was a creep who made my skin crawl on occasion. I was never assaulted, or worse, like some of you poor folks, but I was not pleased to be around this person, and I won't pretend otherwise. Well, I just want to say real quick before we get into this, unlike a lot of other channels, because I do tend to see that happen a lot whenever you guys send me stuff or talk about sending me stuff, that it has to be neckbeard related. It does not. I just cover any weird story that is interesting to me, so feel free to share whatever you have. Let's get into it, shall we? Many moons ago, I had moved to the big city from a smaller college town, roughly a year after graduation, because commuting for work sucked and my lease was up finally. I got into this lovely building, a short walk from downtown, and within reasonable driving distance to work. However, because yours truly got a job in a humanities-related business, I needed to find a second job to help pay the bills. The building I had moved into was looking for office staff, so I applied. I got the job, which was tending the office and answering questions if management was not available to do so, among other things. It was alright. The majority of the work could get done rather quickly, and then you just had to hang out there and take tenant complaints or accept paperwork from management to look at the next day. Student employees could use the time to do homework, while those like me brought books or other things to do that could easily be put on the side when needed. I even made a friend while I was there, which was great. Of course, since I worked in the building, and had to interact with tenants, some of them would come in to chat briefly. Usually older folks who just wanted to talk with someone about their day. That is how the aforementioned fellow came onto the scene. We will call him Kipp. Kipp was a fellow tenant, having moved in around 6 months after I did. I'm guessing it was about a week or so after he moved in that he too started stopping into the office to chat. My first memory of him is fuzzy, but I do recall getting a weird vibe from him. Just the way Kipp was talking to me, sitting in a chair in front of the desk, like he both owned the place and was trying to draw attention to himself, made me feel yuck. At one point, he started asking me questions about my age and if I went to school. I told him that I was 23, graduated the year before. He then told me to guess how old he was. Looking at him, I guessed he was in his 30s. I remember him shaking his head, smiling wide, and his eyes staring at me and saying, "I'm 42. I don't look like 42, do I?" Cool. I said something along the lines of, no, I didn't think he did, and thankfully the conversation dwindled from there until he finally left. That was not his final visit. Pretty soon, every time I was on shift for the evening, Kipp was stopping in and making a point to greet me by name and stepping right up to the desk so he could not be ignored. And then he would sit down and talk, and talk, and talk about the most inane things. I can't recall every detail. I do know that he always made a point to mention his job at big banking company, how he was looking for places to check out since he was new in town, and if I knew any that he should go to. These may seem like innocuous questions, but even young, dumb me got the weird sense that Kipp may have been trying to test the waters. His tone was so leading, so wanting for me to fill in the gaps and pay attention that the tenor was undeniable. I would answer back, trying to keep as bland as possible, because the weird vibe kept getting stronger with every little chat. I didn't want to lose my job, and I could be polite, even though I felt a bit of dread when I saw him coming towards the office. I do recall him asking if I had a boyfriend once. He had mentioned several times that he was single by that point, and when that followed, I got a bit more of a clue. I cannot say for certain, but I'm fairly certain I lied and said I did, because I did not want to encourage him in any way. Objectively, he wasn't a bad-looking guy, he just wasn't attractive to me, and I didn't want to give him the wrong idea. However, my answering questions, doing short and meant that he was gaining ground in his mind, I guess. I know that so far Kipp doesn't seem all that bad, but you have to understand, nearly every shift, for several months, he would do this. He would come into the building, see me, and if I didn't look busy enough, he would beeline for me and sit down to talk. He would also stop in after going for runs, making sure to stretch in the lobby right outside the office door, before and after. Maybe he thought this was impressive? I'm not sure. What I am sure of, though, is that he wouldn't do this for any of the male employees. The consensus was that for them, it was short chats and very businesslike. For us ladies, different story. My work friend also had to deal with him, but a little less pushing for conversation since her boyfriend lived in the building as well. As I look back on it, I do think Kipp was trying to subtly hit on me, despite the near 20-year age difference. Those chats made me incredibly uncomfortable. I felt his stare burning into me whenever I tried to look busy to keep the conversation as short as possible, because there was so much work I had to do that night. Any deliveries that needed to be made throughout the building, I made sure to do his floor last. He told me which floor he lived on. I declined to do the same. Thank God he never found out I lived there too. When I got to the point that I was removing my shoes in the stairwell so he wouldn't hear me walking down after putting notices under the door, or purposefully taking a different elevator to avoid him, I realized there's a problem. I felt so uncomfortable. Kept looking over my shoulder whenever I was off duty in case he should come into the communal laundry room or something if I was there, or checking behind me when I went home to make sure there was no chance that he could see me going in at that time. After several months of this, I did finally go to my manager about what was going on. Let's call her Samantha. I just heard this in my head with Sorrow TV's inflections. I missed that dude. I did as soon as you said Samantha as well. We'll call her Samantha. Samantha was a woman with a real estate background, and so had become a manager for the company that owned my building at some point. You could probably picture someone like her, big hair that hadn't changed its style since the 80s, thick makeup with bright eyeshadow, giant smile that could both comfort and promise retribution for wrongs done to the property in question. Yeah, that was her. She and I got along fine, and so I felt safe enough to tell her what was going on. I hesitated before this because I thought foolishly that Kipp would move on, stop coming in, especially since my body language had become more and more closed off to him, and my tone had gotten significantly shorter when I had to speak to him. But no, he kept coming in, chatting, making his remarks about his job and his money, while I did all but turn my back on him, hoping he would take the damn hint. To her credit, she was sympathetic, and asked if I wanted to write down a report to place in both his tenant file and mine. I immediately agreed, taking the paper and pen she offered, writing down the instances where he kept showing up on my shift for his conversations. I remember him making comments about my clothes and my hair, saying my dress boots looked good on me once. Ugh. Yeah, that's creepy, dude. And handing it over for her to copy and put in the files. However, to her detriment, she said something to this day sits so poorly with me. It'd probably be a good idea to do what you can to not draw his attention, wear less makeup, don't do nothing that'll catch his eye, that sort of thing. Really, Samantha? Really, Samantha? That's what I said. Put the onus on me when he's the one invading my personal space, making me uncomfortable? Yeah, exactly. That's fucked, dude. For the record, I wore minimal makeup in those days, foundation, eyeliner mostly. I dressed for the job, but as comfortably as I could. I wasn't doing anything attention-worthy, truly. I was just trying to look professional and do my job. Even if you weren't, that doesn't give someone's permission to just come up to you and invade your fucking personal space like that. This dude's a creep, bottom line. 10 years later, that still screws with my head when I think about it. In the moment, though, I just took her advice and got my complaint in. After that, the interactions did seem to die down, with Kipp only approaching to drop off rent payments and paperwork as needed, but not staying to chat. I'm assuming they did talk to him about his behavior, so he finally pulled back. With the complaint in his file, I do think it did give the company some leeway in not allowing him to renew his lease, and he would be gone after that point. I do remember some bitter glances he gave the office while I was in there a couple times, but I ignored it. When he was finally gone, I was very relieved. I ended up living in the building a few more years and worked for another year and a half before phased out when a new company bought the old one. I guess Kipp wasn't as bad as some people in other stories, but the situation was not one that I would recommend being part of. And I wanted to share the BS advice I'd gotten as a younger woman from an older one at the time. While there is little we can all agree on in this day and age, it seems that we can agree that that was stupid. Yeah. It was a weird sort of blaming, and one that should not have been put on me, I feel. You're right. To this day, I cannot even fathom using big banking company because the universe's sick sense of humor asserts itself in twisted ways, and I'm afraid that if it did, he would somehow be the one handling my stuff. No, thank you. It feels good to get this out, my one and only weird guy experience. 10 years on, I can look back on it and be like, that was a weird time. If anybody's going through something similar, please tell someone. And no, it has nothing to do with your makeup, clothes, or whatever. What you feel is valid and deserves to be noted seriously. If you read this, Moonhorse, I just did, thank you, and I hope whoever else does has a great day/evening. Scrawny Maiden, I have to say that you are absolutely correct. The advice that this Karen, or rather Samantha, gave you is bullshit. No, it doesn't matter what it is you're doing. You obviously were not wanting that attention. See, it's one thing if you've decided to, dress a certain way and want the attention that goes with it. It's a different thing if this is just the way that you dress and someone else has decided to get all up in your business. These are two different instances, and you are 100% right that it does not matter what you are wearing. That does not give him the right to get all up in your business like that. Was he weirdly hitting on you? Absolutely. I can definitely tell. Creeps like that, especially because it's like neckbeardish behavior, that idea of just yeah, well, look how much money I have. Aren't I impressive? You should be impressed with me. Oh, I'm so good. Yeah, definitely one of those. He's one of those guys that intentionally works out in public so other people can see him because he thinks he's the hottest motherfucker on the planet. I meant to say on, but I said in, but it probably goes for both. He probably thinks mole people think he's hot too. So, yeah, no, I definitely understand that this guy's a creep. I definitely understand that the advice that the former building manager or whatever gave you is bullshit. And you're right, this is a creep story, and thank you for sharing it with us. Seriously though, Kipp, you're a fucking creep. Stop that shit, dude. Stop it. Nobody fucking likes that shit. That is going to be it for this story. If you enjoyed it, please make sure you like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. I have a Ko-Fi and a merch store. Every Wednesday there is a podcast, which you can gain early access to by signing up for my Anchor/Spotify, whatever thing. I think one does for both. I'm pretty sure one does for both. Either way, you can get early access to it. If not, you'll get the newest episode 1 week after it premieres there. And I'd like to say that as of today, at least one of you has signed up for it, so thank you very much. If you have anything you'd like to send me, r/Moonhorse Stories, and if you have anything you'd physically like to send me, the address is down there too. I do mailbag videos, which some of you have definitely noticed. I do stream every Saturday, and actually, I do stream every weekend. Let's be honest. I do streams with my wonderful, wonderful significant other, the fantastic Sango. We play video games, we read weird things, we hang out, and you're more than welcome to come hang out with us. I'll see you all in the next video. I love you all so very much. Goodbye.